Anyway, good evening. Once again, my name is Mary Hill. A lot of my friends and coworkers fondly call me Ma Mary because I'm always trying to make sure that everybody is all right. I am one half of the co-founder of CAUSE, Carolina Amazonians United for Solidarity and Empowerment. Woo, woo. Thank you. But I'm just a humble servant. I work at RD1 in Garner, North Carolina, where been there, I'm going into my 5th year. The other half of the co-founder team, Reverend Ryan Brown, who came up with the vision, he said, when he brought it to me to organize, and I coined the name CAUSE, Carolina Amazonians United for Solidarity and Empowerment. We started in the heart of the pandemic when everything was shut down, except for Amazon, believe it or not. We were essential. Mighty damn strange we ain't so essential now. But having been there for almost 5 years, I've seen the decline. I've seen, oh my God, I've seen the lack of respect. I've seen the treatment of my coworkers. We recently had an election in February of this year. We turned in enough cards to get an election, over 40%. We didn't win the vote. However, we did make history. When it comes to unions and unionizing, North Carolina is only second behind, guess what state? The prize goes to this table over here. South Carolina, only second. They don't want a union because, you know what? I don't know how to put this. I'm old school. I'm 71 years young. Thank you. The reason why the 1%ers and the capitalists fight us so hard and do all the dirty stuff they do to us, do y'all really know why that is? Because they know that if we get together and stick together, we got the power. Now, if they know that and can see that, why the hell can't we? Please. That's why they fight us the way they do. Because when we get to stick together, there ain't a damn thing they can do to stop us. Oh my God. We've got to do this, people. Time is out. I was telling a young lady outside earlier, we've been playing mud cakes too long. I'm a country girl, born and raised in the country. You don't get no more country than me. Also a tomboy, been a fighter all my life. It's time we take off the damn gloves. For real. We've done enough for soft stepping, two-stepping, whatever the hell you want to call it, trying to be nice and all that. We need some militant people like me to join this fight, to say what the hell needs to be said to who it needs to be said to. Ain't no time for sugarcoating and all that. That's out. The hour, we're past midnight now. We need to get real, get serious, get committed, dedicated, and stick together, people, and support each other. We can support each other on some bullshit. Come on. We can support each other on some bullshit. This is something that not only is going, and really and truly is not just about right now. See, because we're still living off the coattails and a lot of things that, I'm going to do it to you. I got to do it to you. That Sojourner Truth did. That Rosa Parks did. That Elmer Gantry did. Martin Luther King did. If they hadn't made the sacrifices and the struggles, and I don't know how the hell they did it, because this can be so frustrating sometimes, trying to get our people to stick together. But if it wasn't for the good fight that they fought, we wouldn't have a lot of the amenities and things that we enjoy today. So people, if we don't do this, our children, our grandchildren, and maybe our great-grandchildren, they gonna catch purity hell. For real. Maybe I don't, let that sink in for a minute. You see how bad it's getting in the workplaces, whether it's Waffle House, IHOP, Burger King, RD1. We are fungible. They don't give a damn about us. All they care about is the bottom line. We got to get together, people, and get this right. We have an interesting panel for you this evening. And our topic, as most of you may know, is building fighting. Y'all heard that word fighting? Well, I don't know what we've been doing, but it ain't been fighting. I'm a tomboy and grew up in the country. This ain't how I was taught to fight. So we're building fighting unions to defeat the billionaires, oh Lord, and Trumpism. Good gracious alive. So we're gonna have a discussion surrounding that. And here are just some things that I want everybody to think about, including the panel, okay? So we can all be on the same page. What have the attacks on your sector looked like? What has been the impacts? What shape has the fight back in your sector taken so far? Are there lessons that you are learning from the struggles you've been engaged in? What is needed to build fighting workplace organizations that can anchor a broader movement to challenge the billionaire class and Trumpism? Okay? Everybody got that? All right. We have some interesting speakers this evening. On our panel, we have April Lott. Where is Miss Lott? Oh, hey, Miss Lott, I didn't see you over there. You being incognito. Okay, Miss Lott is the current president of the Charleston Alliance for Fair Employment, Charleston Workers Center. She is a federal employee of 34 years. I know, that deserves a hand clap. She is the president of Local 3627 with the American Federation of Government Employees, and also holds the position of AFGE, SSA Council 215, Executive Vice President. She is president of the Charleston Central Labor Council, president of the National Council of Negro Women. All right. Bethune Leonard Section, and holds board positions with the South Carolina, whoa, I ain't heard of them in a long time, AFL-CIO. A. Philip Randolph Institute, Charleston Chapter, and Coalition of Black Trade Unionists. She is a South Carolina native and has one daughter and one granddaughter. I'm going to introduce all the panelists before they take the podium, okay? Next we have David Paladin-Fernandez. All right. Virginia Caucus of Rank and File Educators. David Paladin-Fernandez is a 10-year educator from Alexandria, Virginia, where he teaches middle school science. His journey in organized labor started in 2021 by joining the Education Association of Alexandria, which is EAA, and by extension, the Virginia and National Education Associations. Over the next few years, David worked with school and city officials to give raises to, and more importantly, collective bargaining rights in 2024 to Alexandria educators. Woo, woo. He is so happy to attend this year's SWA Action Summit and is excited to help Southern Labor organize. Magaly Licolli. Did I say it right? Woo woo, I'm getting better. Venceremos. Magaly grew up in Mexico. Since 2015, she has helped lead the poultry campaign in Arkansas. Wow, talk about the Jim Crow South, which has gained notoriety nationwide. In 2019, Magaly became the executive director of Venceremos, a human rights worker-based organization that she co-founded, which works to ensure the dignity of poultry workers. She currently serves as a member of the Labor Research and Action Network Advisory Committee, as a board of directors of Labor Notes, and as a member of the Advisory Committee of Civil Eats. Magaly has been featured in media outlets such as The Problem with Jon Stewart, Democracy Now!, The Guardian, The New York Times, and Vox Media, to name a few. She has been a guest speaker at important universities such as Harvard, Yale, and Stanford University. All right. In 2020, Magaly was recognized by the Arkansas Business Publishing Group as one of Arkansas's 250 most influential leaders. Next, we have Joseph Rosenweig, Louisiana Workers Council. Joseph Rosenweig is an organizer originally from, wow, I know where this place is, y'all, believe it or not, Pascagoula, Mississippi. Now living in New Orleans, Louisiana. He became an activist in the struggles against racist police murders, Confederate monuments, and U.S. militarism and intervention. For years, he co-edited Workers' Voice, a working class socialist newspaper. In 2020, he helped found the Louisiana Workers Council, which has fought to raise the minimum wage and for emergency relief measures during COVID and after hurricanes. Today, LWC is focused on community organizing against the Billionaires' attacks on survival programs. Joseph works as a package handler at UPS and is a member of Teamsters Local 270. And last but certainly not least, we have Carl Rosen, who is with the UE. Carl Rosen was elected as general president of the United Electrical, Radio, and Machine Workers of America in 2019. He spent 10 years as a rank and file member of UE working as a maintenance electrician at a factory in Chicago before being elected to full-time positions with the union as first district and then regional president beginning in 1994. He, like his union, has shown unwavering support for militant and democratic trade unionism, racial and gender justice, immigrant rights, public good over private profit. I gotta say that again. Public good over private profit. Also, universal health care, environmental justice, international labor solidarity, and an independent political role for labor. In the most recent period, he has helped lead efforts to establish the National Labor Network for Ceasefire and Labor for Democracy, and has helped coordinate UE's involvement in labor for higher education. All right, without any further ado, I've introduced all our panel members, and we're going to start with Miss April Lott.
Good evening. Good evening. I am honored to be before you tonight. I got to put these spectacles on. So the question is, what have the attacks looked like? And I don't need to tell anyone in this room, unless you don't have a TV, what the attacks have looked like for federal workers. Since January 21st, there have been 142 executive orders doing everything it can to destroy unions, to destroy the middle class, which is what the unions work hard to fight for. So we've got situations like ending any programs that has to do with diversity, equity, and inclusion. Any programs. At one agency, they closed the entire civil rights department, shut it down completely. Then there was the email that came out saying you can accept a deferred resignation. What is a deferred resignation? So you can say you quit today, but you don't have to do it till months later. But you get paid during that time, but don't have to do any work. That sound right to you? Sound like a setup to me too. Then there was the firings of probationary employees. An email came out and said, we're at a fork in the road, people. And we need you to retire. We need you to resign because we got too many workers that are providing services to the community, that's providing services to our elderly, that's providing services to our veterans. There's too many of y'all, so we need to get rid of some of you. So that was the first thing that came out to the federal workers. Then it was the firings. Then it was the disapproval of contracts. Anything that was agreed upon at the end of the last administration, nah, we're not honoring them. They do away with them. You don't have to negotiate anymore. Then it was the restructuring and the reorganizing and moving entire departments and shutting down departments and firing of people and threats of rifts and firing of TSA agents. So you know what? It was scared to get on a plane for a while there. Because all of a sudden, you didn't have the workers. They came in and said, TSA, that contract that you just won, it's gone. You no longer have collective bargaining rights anymore. You don't have a way to file grievances anymore. You don't have a voice in your workplace anymore. All through an executive order. FEMA, FDA. Then they said, well, if you don't want to resign, how about take an early out? Just go ahead and leave early because we want to cut the workforce. Then on a weekly basis, these people that begin with the letter D and then with the end with the letter E, doggy, I'm going to say doggy, doggy decides to take over anything relating to OPM and personnel and our HR department, sends this weekly email. What did you do last week? Wait a minute, you're not my supervisor. I don't answer to you. I answer to the people. I answer to the community. I answer to the public because that's what I am. I am a public servant. Taking collective bargaining rights. He decided that he wanted to outlaw collective bargaining rights for national security. So VA, Veterans Affairs, lost collective bargaining rights, saying, hey, employees, you're no longer represented by a union. We're going to stop your dues deductions. Over 50,000 employees, just like that, dues deduction stops. If you don't think that won't cripple a union, that all of a sudden you don't have no money coming in. You don't have any protections. And these are veterans that were serving and also veterans that are working for the agency that he's hurting. Department of Education, our teachers that are teaching our children and our grandchildren and our nieces and our nephews, our children that have gone on to college and become doctors and lawyers and have become teachers themselves. Now you want to affect the Department of Education and get rid of funding and get rid of employees that are doing the work, that are educating our future. Told you about TSA. Told you about USIED. Then they want to come up and say, well, I'm going to institute the Schedule F, which means I'm going to make all these federal workers at will. That means I can get rid of them when I want to. And we all know what that's like in right-to-work states, being at will. So now here, over 300,000 federal workers, just in my union alone, are now at will. These are things, these are cuts. This is what it's looking like on a day-to-day basis for federal workers. So the question was, what impact? Well, morale is low. Employees every day come in, what's going to happen next? Am I going to have a job? Am I going to have my retirement? After 34 years, if somebody messed with my retirement, there's going to be some furniture moving up in here. Because I done worked too hard to get where I am. I done paid in too much money into my retirement to tell me, oh, we're going to cut it back, or you're not going to get that supplemental to your annuity, or it's just crazy, y'all. It's just crazy. Yes, after 34 years, they can walk up and say, well, April, we don't need you anymore. We don't need your position anymore. You got to go. I'm 53. I got 4 more years before retirement. I'm going to make it my 4 years because guess what? I'm going to fight every day. Okay. Lessons learned. What is needed? Well, the one thing that I've seen, lesson learned, is we're not going to back down from the fight. Federal workers are not going to back down. Yes, we're kind of not going to say scared, because I don't believe in the spirit of fear. We're concerned. We're concerned about what's going to happen. But what I have seen is that our federal workers are standing up. They're speaking out. They're using their voices and letting know the community that we serve, that's you. That's your mothers, that's your aunties, that's your grandparents, that's the veterans, those that get Social Security, those federal agencies, those teachers, Department of Justice, Department of Treasury. All of these federal workers are tied into the community. They are you. They are your family. And they are being attacked. So we're seeing the community stand up. We're seeing the workers stand up. And we're not backing down. We will go toe-to-toe, 10 toes down, every day that we have to fight for our rights. Because workers' rights is human rights, is civil rights, and we will not be denied our rights. It is not going to be easy. We've had some wins. So just like I told you how TSA, they took away that collective bargaining right. Well, we took it to court and we got it back. All right. Those probationary employees that were terminated, we took it to court. And guess what? They got to get rehired. So we've had wins, but we are going to continue to fight. And it's going to take solidarity, standing together, arm in arm. Them soldiers you were talking about, our faith leaders and our union leaders, our community leaders, standing together. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Yes. Let's give her another hand. When we fight, When we fight, when we fight. I didn't say when we talk and when we ask nicely and when we pick it and all that. When we fight. All right. Our next speaker, I'm so excited. Our next speaker is Mr. David Paladin-Fernandez.
Well, I got a tough one to follow, so, let's give another round of applause to April. Thank you for sharing your perspective. And good evening, everybody. I hope everyone is having a wonderful time so far. And speaking of having a wonderful time, I wanted to take a moment to thank Ben Carroll for being such a tremendous leader throughout this process. You have put in an untold number of hours into this, and sorry if you don't like the spotlight, but anyone who can run a meeting as efficiently as you deserves their flowers. So can we please get a quick round of applause for Ben? Now, it's folks like Ben and all of you which make this work worth it and provide the inspiration and energy we need to systematically fight Trumpism and the billionaire class. But in order to fight something, we must first understand the nature of the attack. In the world of education, the attacks have been, on the surface, easy to understand. It's do what we say or we will cut your funding. A simple proposition of change what you teach or we will make you suffer financially. But if you only look at the surface, you might only see that federal dollars account for less than 1% of K-12 school budgets. And you might think that facing a cut of less than 1% isn't too much, relatively speaking. But the devil is in the details. And if you look at what that 1% pays for, you will find it funds things ranging from student-facing positions to curriculum resources and everything in between. For example, in my school district in Alexandria, the less than 1% we get from the feds pays for our school meals. That means if we lose that federal funding, then we need to figure out how we will feed our kids at the expense of other vital resources or let them go hungry. And I can assure you that choice is by design. But the truly insidious thing about this design is that it is not meant to just control funds and physical resources. It is meant to control our minds. It is meant to target hungry children whose minds are so impressionable that they will never think to fight if they don't learn of their exploitation. This design is meant to target our minds, to fill us with fear, so we freeze while the exploiting class continues to capture both physical and mental territory. These attacks are an attempt to control the very nature of human thought and attempts to fence in the infinite creativity of humans so we become hollow husks of ourselves, ready to be filled by the propaganda the exploiting class spews with the hope that you will be too ignorant to realize it. That is why they attack schools. Because so long as we think freely, we are a threat. So long as we question why society is the way it is, we will put fear into their hearts, their minds, and most importantly to them, their bottom lines. They know they have to control our consciousness in order to win. And that's why the fight back in our sector starts with realizing that for as much as they try to control our physical world, they will never control our mind and our spirit. They can try to write curriculum, but they will never control what we teach. At the end of the day, if we distill this fight to its barest essence, it will come down to knowing and remaining strong in knowing that they cannot control our minds and the human condition of demanding better treatment for all people. This fight will come down to realizing that we are going to be in it for the long haul and to mentally prepare yourself to fight for every day for the rest of your lives. This fight will come down to knowing that there is more that binds us together as workers than sets us apart, whether you work in a restaurant, a classroom, an auto parts plant, or wherever. It will come down to being ready to put on the metaphorical and sometimes physical helmet to take up that sword and shield, because this moment needs organized, motivated, and most importantly, warrior laborers. Which is why, as a teacher, I want to end with a history lesson. Around 130 years ago, America was facing a similar situation that we do now. The Gilded Age was in full force, and robber barons such as Cornelius Vanderbilt, John D. Rockefeller, and J.P. Morgan were at the height of their power. Then came the Homestead Strike of 1892, which was violently suppressed by the Pennsylvania National Guard, and the barons thought they won. Then came the Pullman Strike of 1894, which was suppressed by 10,000 federal troops, but the barons rehired numerous workers thinking it would appease them. Then came the Bread and Roses Strike of 1912, the Great Steel Strike of 1919, and many more actions which resulted in the greatest expansion of workers' rights in American history, and they did it by remaining strong, fighting the long fight, and most importantly, never accepting that the barons could control their minds and their spirits. It may be 130 years later, but here we are again. Instead of Vanderbilt, Rockefeller, and Morgan, it's Musk, Zuckerberg, and Bezos. Instead of Standard Oil and American Steel, it's Amazon and Starbucks. The people and corporations are different, but the way we respond will be the same. We will remain strong. We will remain headfast. And we will win. We will usher in a new era of expanded rights for laborers, and we will do it by fighting every battle and never allowing the exploiting class to control our minds. We will do it by knowing that they may take our physical bodies, but they will never be able to take our spirit. In doing so, we will win this war of attrition and ensure workers' rights are global rights. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you on the front lines.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Let's give him another round, folks. All right. All right. Wow. Next, we have Miss Magaly. Licolli.
Thank you. Thank you so much. For the poultry workers, I would just like to take us back 5 years ago only, where I can go further. But since 2020, we've been fighting the bad working conditions, the pandemic, where workers were exposed to get sick and die, where the Trump administration allowed and was working together with the corporations to really screw up the lives of the workers, that they were called essential workers, that they were called heroes, with the idea really to expose those workers to die. And those workers were suffering every day to feed you all, were going to work with all the stress, not knowing if they were gonna get sick and get sick of their families. And during those years, the poultry workers also were forced to work faster than ever, increasing the line speeds to 174 birds per minute. The workers were already struggling with bathroom breaks. And we saw every year after that how the bad working conditions got worse and worse. The line speed got increased every time, and how the corporations were really taking advantage of the fact that these workers were so afraid of losing those jobs because there was no way that they could find another job in those rural areas where they are. We saw how the Trump administration was working together with the corporations, and also how really the people were not taking care of those workers. We're not really acknowledging how these workers were exposed to those deaths. And eventually, we got Biden, right? And I also like to talk about that because Biden didn't do anything to protect those immigrant workers. The workers and my immigrant community voted for Biden because they thought they would be granted a path to citizenship because they called essential workers. However, the working conditions at the plants got worse and worse, that the answer to that was to bring kids. And we saw an increase of kids working on those chicken farms, kids from Guatemala that crossed the borders by themselves, and how the government or the governor of Arkansas really was just granted the full extension for these companies to hire those kids without any protections. And then now, 5 years after, now my immigrant community is being criminalized for crossing the borders in order to feed their families, in order to reach that dream. And while we got these narratives of they are taking our jobs, those immigrants are stealing our jobs. But let me tell you something. It was not the immigrants that took your jobs. It was the bad working conditions that displaced you. Because these corporations didn't want workers who know their rights, didn't want workers who know how to speak English. They wanted workers who were afraid of losing those jobs. They wanted vulnerable workers to keep exploiting them. So you're not mad with the immigrants. You're mad about the system that you built in, that you created, and that you don't know how to fix that now, and you're blaming the wrong people, keeping separating the families. And now, the situation of organizing those workers who were already afraid of losing those jobs, and now being afraid of being persecuted by ICE, and separating those families, increasing the fear in our communities, criminalizing our communities. We all need to stand up for those people because the situation is gonna get worse for all of us. Because now, yesterday they were the black workers, the immigrants, now the kids, and tomorrow the answer to those corporations will be to bring more guest workers and to expand the H-2A and H-2B visas to bring workers to work for 6 months. And so that they can be returned, and they're not gonna take accountability for the injuries of those workers. So at the end of the day, they are seeing how more expendable they make the workers. And we all need to be assured and aware of the class consciousness that is not about the immigrants, the black, the whites. It's about the class struggle and the consciousness that we need to do to fight the real problem, to fight capitalism, to fight corporations that keep seeking these people as expendable, that they keep dehumanizing us. And we all need to stand together to fight the real enemy. It are not the immigrants. It's just the system that we need to collapse, and that we need to create another system that is better for all of us. Thank you.
You hit the nail on the head. Yes, yes. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Oh my God. She hit that daggum nail on the head, didn't she? It's the system that's been rigged against us from way back when. The system. But we can change all that. We just got to stick together. Our next speaker for the evening is Mr. Joseph Rosenweig. Welcome, welcome.
First, let me just say how much I appreciate being here among so many tested fighters in the struggle for workers' power. I'm humbled, and I look forward to gaining knowledge from all of you. Having spent most of my life in Mississippi and now Louisiana, I can attest to the crying need to organize the South. We Southerners are already witness to the ravages of MAGA, which is yet another attempt to revive the Confederacy in a new form. We know how heavily the chains of mass incarceration, racism, and union busting weigh on the working class. And we also know that we can be a decisive force in a movement to break those chains. Labor in the white skin can never be free while labor in the black skin is branded. This truth, put into words by Karl Marx, bears repeating now more than ever, as Trump and his billionaire cronies promote racism in every venue and every corner of society. By the same token, citizen labor will never prosper as long as our undocumented brothers and sisters are unfree. It is right that we make it a priority to help build the growing fight back against the deportations, the kidnappings, the unjust criminalizations of our immigrant family. And we salute the resistance that is unfolding across the country. This is working class solidarity. After all, the ICE raids, the attacks on our unions, the efforts to automate our jobs away, the cuts to Social Security, to Medicaid, to SNAP, to VA benefits, these are all being carried out on behalf of our class enemy for the purpose of amassing greater and greater profits for themselves. Every cent of capitalist profit comes from our labor. Likewise, every social program that Trump is trying to cut, not just Social Security, comes out of a budget that is financed by our labor. Trump's program of war, repression, and austerity, represented by the big bad Billionaires bill in Congress, is fundamentally an effort to lower the cost of labor power on behalf of the capitalists that he represents. The war on workers with the lowest income is meant to create desperation, which will induce workers to compete for lower wages. Our hard-won survival programs have functioned as unemployment pay in a society that refuses to use the wealth that we produce for full unemployment or income at living wages. They are in large part a legacy of the efforts of the unions and the unemployed councils during the 30s and the heroic struggle of the civil rights movement. These are chapters of our struggle well worth studying today. Coupled with Trump's cuts are historic hikes in war spending. The tanks that will roll through D.C. tomorrow follow the cancellation of $1 billion in funds to provide food to school cafeterias. The ICE terror squads deployed in our cities just show how far our society has become infected with militarism. Every significant policy of the U.S. government is now determined by the profit motives of the major shareholders of the war corporations, including oil and gas and big tech. Wielding their power through investment companies like BlackRock, which is controlling shares in most Fortune 500 corporations, the war profiteers have infiltrated almost every sector of the capitalist economy, including every major university. These capitalists now loot 75% of the national budget. Accounting for interest payments on debt accrued by military spending, the true war budget will top $2.5 trillion next year. This has been the joint project of the Democrats and the Republicans, who faithfully serve their campaign contributors by voting year after year to heap riches on the war profiteers at the expense of the people. Previous administrations have, with varying degrees of success, sold U.S. workers the lie that we can have guns and butter. Trump's policies put that lie to rest. Open class warfare is on the agenda. Whether he's talking about Greenland or Panama, Palestine or Iran, Trump more or less admits that the purpose of U.S. military might is to seize resources, open up markets, and subjugate workers. America First is a doctrine openly taken from the playbook of Andrew Jackson and Adolf Hitler, except that today the slogan is Fortune 500 über alles. We know that no U.S. intervention of any kind has ever resulted in more prosperity, democracy, or sovereignty anywhere in the world. And we certainly can't fight BlackRock at home while endorsing wars for BlackRock abroad. The capitalists are only too happy to exploit the state of exception that their wars lay the groundwork for. Contracts, labor rights, wage laws, free speech, these can all be dispensed with in the event of imperialist war. So for this reason, and for the sake of our Iranian brothers and sisters, let us now, tonight, declare hands off Iran. We don't want another war for oil. We need to develop an approach to workers in the military industries, which proliferate throughout the South. And there's history here. Perhaps we could set up a working group to discuss the issue. A couple of other issues. I'm a part-time warehouse worker for UPS. There's no shortage of life and death issues that we face. I, for one, was fired for organizing members to respond to the heat-caused death of a union brother. I managed to win my job back, but this tragedy reflects a state of affairs all too common among workers in the Teamsters Southern region. Many of us find ourselves dealing with officials who act more as company enforcers than contract enforcers. And at the national level, we have a general president, Sean O'Brien, who's using our union to promote Trumpism. The major issue we currently face is that UPS, in a race to keep up with the anti-worker Amazon, has announced a plan to lay off 20,000 workers by the end of 2025, with 1,000 more layoffs to come. This is despite the company's contractual pledge to create 30,000 jobs, a fact not lost on the union. But as of now, there's no action. Let's be clear. Whatever the failings of the union bureaucracy, these attacks are coming from the UPS shareholders, from BlackRock. It's on us, union organizers, to put forward solutions and back them up with struggle. In every industry, the capitalists are on a mad dash to automate away our jobs and to create a massive pool of workers reduced to working for scraps. But organized, we have the power to push them back. The problem, as we know, is that the profits from our labor fund the technology, machines, algorithms, and robots that replace us, while workers who remain on the job are hyper-exploited, producing super profits for the company. The capitalist laws dictate that as the sole owners of the plants, the equipment, the land, they can do whatever they want with their property. And workers are driven to hopelessness thinking that this is the case, especially when unions treat it as a foregone conclusion. Time after time, we're discarded by private equity corporations which saddle companies like Yellow Freight with debt only to suck out every cent in profit, bankrupt the company, and sell it for parts. But the history of the labor movement has shown that struggle precedes the law. When workers occupied plants during the sit-down strikes of the 30s, they forced the then Secretary of Labor to recognize that right by virtue of their investment of their labor. Let's be clear that this was due to workers' organization and militancy, not some clever trick of the law or some loophole in a contract. We can look to the Republic windows and doors struggle for a more recent case study. So to UPS, we say, create the jobs, don't fire workers. And to the union, we say, let's authorize a strike vote in light of the UPS's breach of contract. We can assert our right to our jobs, but we have to be willing to back it up with action. Many rank and filers where I work agree, but it's been a hard road to go national, as many avowed reformers within the Teamsters are afraid to lose the positions that they've gained in the process of installing the current leadership. How does the union inspire workers to action? How does the union assert itself as a fighting force? These are not small problems for us organizers to consider, but it's worth remembering that once the sit-down strikes of the 1930s happened, the CIO could not print union cards fast enough to meet the demand. So my call to you tonight is that we think unconventionally and that we act boldly, whether that is calling a people's strike in order to fight back against the cuts that Trump is undertaking all across in the face of every one of our brothers and sisters. I want people to consider popularizing this idea of a people's strike. Here tonight, the general strike of 28 has been brought up, and the Coalition of Black Trade Unionists has called for a Union Day of solidarity and rally to reject Trump's agenda. And I want us to at least be able to discuss amongst each other what we can do that's commiserate with this moment, because we could become a beacon for what is necessary if we commit ourselves. And I look forward to building with you all more as the conference goes on.
Wow. We have been blessed with some amazing speakers. And last tonight, but certainly not least by any means, is Mr. Carl Rosen from UE.
Thank you. What a great event. What a great starting point for the work we're going to do throughout the rest of this year and going into years to come. I hope it's not, as one of the speakers said, for the whole rest of our life. I hope we can defeat this sooner than that. But it is a struggle that we're in front of. And UE is very thrilled to see what the Southern Worker Assembly movement has developed into with the strong efforts of our UE Local 150 in North Carolina. It's just a great thing to see. Yeah, give yourselves a hand. So our union represents workers in a whole bunch of sectors. So I'm just going to concentrate on a couple of them in terms of the what they've been facing, who are most directly getting hit by the changes from the Trump administration, and what they're doing about it, and what this maybe says about what we have to do to get the working class into the kind of motion that's going to be needed to defeat what's going on right now. So I'm going to talk about federal subcontractors. These are our members who work for private companies that do work for the federal government. So it's basically work that's gotten privatized over the decades. And then also our members in higher education. We've organized over 30,000 graduate workers in the last 5 years. So both of these sectors are getting whacked around pretty good. So the federal subcontractors, what's happening is their employer is sticking them with everything that Trump is doing at the federal level, or a lot of the things, even though there's nothing that says they can or should be doing it, they're just taking advantage of it. So one example is they've ended remote work and told folks they have to come back. And these are folks who are doing a lot of clerical work and such. And most of them were hired doing remote work, and they live dozens of miles away from the workplace. In many cases, it's people with disabilities who have a great deal of trouble even getting to the workplace. And then they get to the workplace, and there's not room for them. It's just like going into a crazy house at that point. And then in addition, what we're seeing now is some of our work is getting moved away from these subcontractors who were originally hired because they were cheaper, but we unionized them. And now they actually, especially with what's now happened with the taking away to the rights to collective bargaining, et cetera, for the federal employees are actually more exploitable than the subcontractors are. And so now they're moving work away from our members and giving it to federal workers who are in some cases paid less, which is absolutely shameful that's happened at this point. So that's what's happened there. And then amongst our graduate workers, so there's a general assault on higher education as part of their political framing that, the Trump administration, that they're against the elites, and because they actually want an ignorant society because it makes it easier to exploit folks. There is the attacks on research being done by these universities and the defunding of it, and research being done in many areas, especially in anything in the health fields. And then the vicious attack on international workers, and close to 40% of our membership in higher education are people who are citizens of other countries, but all have completely legal rights to be here while they do their education. So what does this look like in terms of the impact on individuals? So we've got folks whose funding has just been cut off mid-research. A project they've been spending several years on and was going to be their life's work, all of a sudden is cut off in the middle. They can't finish it. Or they're having to scramble for other funds. Especially true for anybody looking at anything related to gender studies or any kind of diversity issues. The universities are cutting back the number of workers, so they're reducing our membership, basically. They're reducing the number of folks who will be working starting in this next academic year. The universities, in some cases, are kowtowing to the Trump administration by cutting back, or repressing, I should say, our rights to protest on campus, rights of everybody to protest on campus, but including workers who have a legal right to protest at their workplace. And they're trying to override it, saying Trump is making them do it. It's frankly, they're happy to be able to do it, but they're doing that. And then the international graduate workers are just under such tremendous pressure. They're looking over their shoulder every minute. They can't go home. They can't visit their relatives. And of course, some of them have been targeted for removal in many cases due to exercising free speech rights that they absolutely have under the U.S. Constitution. And then we also face a kind of existential issue for graduate workers, because if a case gets in front of the labor board relating to graduate workers at this point under a Trump-controlled labor board, they will declare that graduate workers are not workers, and therefore they no longer have the right to collective bargaining. You can't run NLRB elections, et cetera. So that means right now all of the unions in this sector are having to have extreme discipline to not take anything in front of the labor board, which means we can't have any new certification elections, we can't take unfair labor practice charges there, et cetera. And what this has then resulted is some university administrations are digging in harder, much harder than they had been before, on grievances and on contract fights, and on doing things like saying, oh, this whole group of workers, they aren't actually workers. They're outside the contours of what the contract that's been negotiated covers. So those are things in those industries. Our folks in every other industry we represent are feeling the impact in one way or the other. Generally, employers digging in harder around contracts and grievances, figuring we don't have a labor board that we can rely on as one tool in our toolbox. So what are we doing about it? Are we sitting on our asses? No, we're fighting back. And that fight back is both in the workplace and it's in society. And what we have seen throughout this year, since Trump came in, is that our members have been up to the challenge, and that challenge is to build a strong strike threat. And we have done that at contract after contract this year, and it is what has made a win possible in contract after contract. And in most cases, we haven't had to strike. We've had to get very close. But in some, we're striking if we have to, and we've got 250 people on the picket line right now in California. And if it's mid-contract, then we're raising hell on the campus or in the workplace. In higher ed, we've run campaigns, pressure campaigns to force university administrations to take steps to protect international workers, to ensure replacement funding for those who have been cut off, to join with, and a big demand is to join with other universities in a unified pushback against the Trump administration. And where our members have taken on these fights, they've won. But we've also gone out into broader fights in society. Our higher ed locals especially have been out in all kinds of protests. We had a mass, just a sea of people out there when Mesa got kidnapped off the street in Massachusetts from Tufts. We had folks at a neighboring university at MIT just came out by the hundreds out there with their signs and stood proudly in those demonstrations. And in many cases, we've been involved. We've got rapid response teams from many of our locals, both on their campuses or out in the surrounding communities if immigrants, if ICE is spotted, et cetera. And then the National Union, we've as you heard, we've been involved in labor for higher education. We've had a lot of high-profile press events in Washington and coordinating union participation nationwide. We've recently initiated Labor for Democracy. It's now within just a few weeks up to 16 national unions signing on to it, plus hundreds of locals, with the driving motivation here is that we need to defend as labor unions, we need to defend our rights to free speech, to protest, to organize. We can't take these things for granted. We've got to put that issue in the forefront. And what's happened in Los Angeles makes this absolutely clear. And that includes that unions are on the front line there. So we haven't succeeded in turning things around yet, but with this fight we can. So what we have to do, if I can go a minute over here, in terms of the how do we build this into a big enough mass fight and get the working class really into motion, I would argue it starts with the fight in the workplace. That's where people understand what solidarity is about. They understand which side they're on. That's where we've got to engage people. And then once we do, we can start build the consciousness by talking about how what's happening to them in the workplace is related to what's happening to them, what's happening coming out of Washington, D.C. And then we can talk about how this is really about a whole policy here to move wealth and income away from the working class and to the billionaires. And as we do that, we change their consciousness, and we can move them from fighting the boss at work, in the workplace, to fighting the big bosses who are congregated in Washington, D.C. And just remember, we always say in the labor movement, a bad boss is the best organizer. Well, we've got like the baddest boss we've ever seen in Donald Trump. And so we have a tremendous opportunity to organize people and get people in motion, but it doesn't just happen by itself. It's up to us to make it happen. It's up to us to come up with the strategies. It's up to us to have the conversations. It's up to us to get people involved on a large scale. We can do it. We have to do it. Si se puede. Solidarity.
Se puede. Si se puede. Si se puede. Si se puede. Si se puede. Yes, yes. All right. I agree with you, sister. Wow, man. What a great panel, man. What a great, great panel. Again, thank you guys so much.